All right. Hey YouTube, I'm Lucky, and in today's video, I'm gonna need you to put on your spinfoil hats, okay? Because we're gonna go for a wild ride on this one, and we're gonna talk a little bit about why Bungie is being so secretive with the new quote unquote new raid release that's coming up next season, especially if this is already known to be a reprised raid. Like this is already known to be a Destiny 1 raid brought to Destiny 2. Why are they being so secretive? There's not really a necessity to be secretive unless they're actually stirring the pot and working on something that might actually be really big and really interesting. And that's where my theory comes in on this one. And this also falls in line a little bit with some of the leaks. I've been sort of, putting the pieces together here and there. And I want to talk a little bit about this for a video because I think this might be what Bungie's working on. And so let's go ahead and jump right into this. I have an article here that actually came out in 2019, which talks about Destiny almost had a massive raid that sounds awesome. And I'm going to go through and read this article, but the gist of it is that originally when King's Fall came out, it was actually meant to be a combination of the raid Crota's End and King's Fall. They later scrapped that, and obviously it came out in two different pieces, but that was the original game plan. And as we read through this, you'll go through the exact details of how they were going to do that. And I think it would be really, really good of Bungie, and it would be really smart for them to not just keep us all the shrouded mystery and then just be like, ah, yeah, it's King's Fall, and then just give us copy and paste King's Fall from D1 into D2. It would actually be really smart of them, especially because it's going to be next to impossible to bring Crota back to D2 because it was such a small raid, so people aren't going to be as excited about it. I think it would be really smart for them to actually fix their mistakes from the past and actually have that combined raid element. So let's go ahead and read this article and we'll talk a little bit more about this. Destiny almost had a massive raid that sounds awesome. Destiny director Luke Smith reveals a massive raid that the Destiny raid team had originally concepted for the original game. Some of the original plans for the first prototype for the first raid in Destiny 1 was to create a much more massive experience, which never fully came to fruition and was replaced with the now iconic Vault of Glass. However, many of the concepts from the first raid did make their way into the game at some point throughout the lifespan of Destiny 1, which also, again, spinfoil hats here, this could tie a little bit into content vaulting. Perhaps we will need a good amount of space in Destiny to have a huge, massive raid, which would be Crota's End combined with King's Fall. So maybe that's the reason why we got content vaulting, because we do know that Bungie works on things years in advance, especially with raids, and they're often working on a season, multiple seasons in advance, like 3 or 4 seasons in advance. So it would kind of make sense, actually, the timeline if you're thinking about content vaulting and then a huge, massive raid returning to Destiny 2. Destiny 2 franchise director Luke Smith revealed on the We Have Cool Friends Kind of Funny podcast that Crota's End and King's Fall were originally one massive raid. Although not all encounters that would eventually make up each of those raids were in those original plans for one massive raid experiences, the pieces were there. Much of it began with the very first prototype to demonstrate what raiding could be in Destiny 1, which was a very early version of what would become the bridge encounter in Crota's End. If you don't remember that one, you would stand on a platform and it would form the bridge, and then you could only go across the bridge if you had the sword. You kill the knight, you get the sword, and then you can cross the bridge. And then you would only have one sword at a time. You'd get across the bridge and you'd kill a knight on the other end. And so at the time, that prototype was built on the Halo engine, but it involved carrying a heavily modified brute hammer, as Smith described. That sounds awesome. Across the bridge. This hybrid mega raid that Bungie never made as it was originally planned would have included somewhere in it an encounter that was basically the opening encounter to King's Fall, where players have to collect the orbs on two different sides of the area and then bring back to the center to slam into the statues. The raid would have ended in the boss room for Crota's End, with the giant oversoul looming in the distance. Smith also said that the boss room for the summoning pit strike, where players fight the giant ogre Fogoth, was also originally a raid space for this early raid concept that was redesigned and repurposed for the strike instead of being used in a raid. Very interesting stuff. Smith said Bungie redesigned all the rooms and encounters when it came time to actually create Crota's End and King's Fall, but that the skeletons were all there from the previous raid idea. So the skeletons were all there, and they still remain there in Bungie. Smith said that this is a very much a reality of game development. The reality of making games and generating ideas is a bunch of your stuff is going to be built on the bones of the ideas that you didn't get to see through. You end up going back to those things you didn't get to do and being like, why didn't that work? I still want to do that. Let's do that. So then why was the Vault of Glass, which Smith was writing, team at Bungie originally wanted to call the Glass Throne, the first raid and not this Hive-based mega raid? The answer, according to Smith, is because the campaign of Destiny 1 ends with the Vex as the main threat, so the raid team felt like they wanted to make a raid that was Vex themed. As a result, the Hive raid idea was shelved and later drawn from Bungie when started on developing Crota Zen, designing the opening lamp lighting encounter from scratch, bringing back the bridge encounter idea, and using the Oversoul room for the Crota boss fight. So there it is. Very, very interesting stuff. I think that this would be a really smart idea from Bungie. Um, they brought back Vault of Glass, and it was basically copy and paste Vault of Glass. There was a few different mechanical changes in it, in regards to a few just small things, right? But it was still largely Vault of Glass, right? And I think a lot of us like that. And I think that if they change it too much, obviously it could disrupt the community a bit. We wouldn't want that to that degree. But combining the two, especially when people wouldn't be excited for Crota Zen to be the returning raid, right? People would not be excited for that. Combining the two into a huge mega raid would be a huge W for Bungie. Everyone would like that. It would be a raid that would be so much fun and so crazy. I mean, could you imagine going from the beginning of that raid to the end? I mean, that would be quite a journey and quite an adventure. Who knows if there would be certain encounters removed or anything like that? It could be, excessively long. I don't know. But because we've already beaten that raid like we have with Vault of Glass, combining the two would add just an element of excitement that I think the community just definitely needs. And I just hope this ends up being the truth. I hope this ends up being what happens with Bungie. I think that we would all be royally disappointed if they shrouded all this stuff in mystery just to be like, ta-da, it's King's Fall, copy and paste, right? I think they have to be working on something considering the way they're being so secretive. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you agree or disagree? What do you think the next raid will be? And that's a wrap on this one. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed. Smash the like button. I'll see you in the next one. Later.